As you know, there's a new way to access Turnitin.com through Canvas. And this new way provides more functionality than the current way or the old way. However, it's a bit more complicated because it does more. So let's take a look. All right, here I am in Canvas, and I'm on my modules page. I've got just one module called Turnitin, and I've got 2 assignments here. All I've done is started these assignments from the module and given them a name, and I've done this because simply to illustrate, if you want to do an assignment sequence with the Turnitin.com LTI connection, then you're going to need 2 assignments. You'll need one for the students to turn in their rough draft and to critique each other's drafts, and you can provide commentary on the drafts if you like. And then you'll need another assignment for the final draft for the students to submit in. So if you want to do, again, a sequence of rough draft, critique or commentary from you or both, and then the final draft, you'll need 2 different assignments. Once you have those 2 assignments up, we'll need to go in and set up our options for those assignments. So we're going to do the draft one here together. And for the draft one, you'll be able to see how the final works as well. All right, so we want to edit this, and everything we do as normal. We can input our instructions as normal. If you want to include YouTube videos with links or whatever you normally do for your instructions, you can do so here. You can set the points, and you should set your assignment group, and set your due dates, and whatever you would normally do, go ahead and do that. And then once you do that, go to the submission type, and you've got everything else set up, and go to external tool, and that's going to turn into a box here, and we're going to click where it says external tool URL. We're just going to click, and it's going to give us a list of stuff. And in the list, towards the end, probably, you have Turnitin LTI API. And that's what we want to click. Hit select. Then I like to load the tool in a new tab. That puts it out in a new tab instead of in the Canvas frame. That's an option. If you want to keep it in Canvas, you don't have to check that. I like to maintain maximum visibility for my students and myself when working with external tools. So I'm going to load the tool in a new tab. When I'm all done with that, I'm going to hit Update Assignment. And then my instructions will appear up here just as normal, and at the bottom, and it'll be at the bottom, however, usually there's some longer instructions, but you scroll to the bottom, and this button would be there. When we click this button to set up our assignments, the students will also have that button, and that's how they'll access the Turnitin, is through that button. So you can see that we're outside of Canvas. We've got a new tab open here with Turnitin assignment, and we're going to go ahead and go over here to our settings up here, and we've got settings. Now, the nice thing about this is every one of these settings has a little question mark, and if you put your mouse on it, it will tell you exactly what you want to do. Now, one of the things I don't like is we have a due date in Canvas, and we have to do dates in Canvas, but we also have to do dates over here. I've already mentioned that to the kind people at InStructure who run Canvas, that's not ideal, that the due dates are not talking to each other across them. Right, you've also got optional settings, and you're definitely going to want to look at those. Do you want to allow late submissions, for example? And you've got all these things here. Do you want to allow the students to view the originality reports? Yes or no. Most of them are fairly straightforward. This is a draft assignment, so I'm going to tell it to not store the papers in the Turnitin repository, so when the students turn in their final draft, it's not going to come up as plagiarized. Since it's a draft and I'm going to want the students to do a critique, we're going to add a peer mark assignment. And then, of course, we've got all this other stuff. You can enable the ETS e-rater technology. It's basically auto-commenting, provides commentary and whatever you check for students. And it's really nice. You can look this up on the Turnitin website and read about the e-rater and what it does. I've been playing around with it, so I'm going to start out with spelling and grammar for myself. There we go. And then once we've got all of the options the way we want them, we click Submit. And it'll just automatically close the tab and tell us that if we want to access the tool again, we need to reload the browser window. And we actually do want to access because we've turned on the pure mark assignment, but we haven't set it up yet. So we need to go back in the tool, and well, like I said, it's a little bit more complicated than the old way or the current way, depending on how you look at it. But now we've got this new tab here called Pure Mark Setup, and we can go in there, and we can give the peer critique if it's part of the grade, like a point value. So let's say we want it to be worth 10% out of our 100 points, then we could do that. And we can give some special instructions here. I usually say we have to see Canvas, and then we've got our start date, due date, and we've got to set these dates again for the peer mark. So basically what's happening here is the students are going to turn in a draft, and that's what we set up the first time we used this tool. The second time that we're doing now is the critique. So the students have submitted the draft, and now we're setting up a critique. And we, just like the other one, we've got some additional settings. Like if you don't want to grade these by hand and you just want to avoid the full points, if the review is written, you can do that. If you want the students to be able to view you know, who wrote the paper as well as who reviewed the paper, you can do that. So you've got all these. Actually click everything but allow students without a paper to review. It's up to you. Then you can decide, do you want the students to review how many papers? 1, 2, 3. I usually just ask them to do 1. And then you can also say they can automatically distribute.
Resources, keeper.
So you should turn the volume down on your iPad. But anyway, never mind the interruption. You can also let them do that. And you can require a self-review. If you check that, then they have to actually critique themselves as well. So, you know, all that's there. And so there you go. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. So we've got those options saved. And once we save those options, it's going to take us to peer mark questions. Because if you look at the peer mark tutorial that's in a PDF for students, or look up peer mark on the Turnitin website, you actually, instead of the grading pane that an instructor would have on the right side, they have some questions to ask. So we can add questions. And we can either give a free response and where they write a response, and we can even say we want this to be at least 5 words or 10 words or whatever we want. And we save that. And now when the student is going in to critique, they're going to see that question and they're going to have to answer that question. We can also add a scale question. And we can make it 5 points, like how well does this paper follow the instructions? Right? And whatever types of questions that you want your students to look at. For example, you know, is the works cited page there? Is the thesis there where the topic sentences, did the thesis and topic sentences match? Whatever you'd like to do. You can also, and here's what's nice, you can save a library, like I've got one. So you can save a library of these questions, so when you go in to do future assignments, you can use those. And you can add libraries, you can delete libraries. There's also a sample library with some questions. You can add them all. You can add one of them. Could the writer of this paper have omitted certain passages to make this even more concise? If yes, which ones? And we've got to have a minimum answer length there of 5. And so you can just add that stuff in, and you know, whenever you're done, you've got your questions the way you want them, then you can go ahead and simply close the tab, and we're done with that assignment. So the students will submit a draft, and then they'll perform a critique for each other. Right? Now we're done with that, and we can publish that because I'm using the new draft state thing. And then, of course, I'm not going to go in and do all of the options again, but you set up the final draft so that once the students have turned the rough draft, critiqued each other, received their feedback from the critique or the e-rater or your comments, then they can ready themselves for the final draft, and they can get that, you know, submitted, and you just go in the same way and set up the the Turnitin connection and your options, however you'd like them, and then you publish that one too, and then you're done. And when it's time to grade, you access it the same way. There's some cost and benefits to this. It provides a little bit more functionality, which is nice, but it's also a little bit more complicated. It might take a little bit of time to set up at the start of each term. Right now, the old way is functional. This new way is functional. How you decide to use Turnitin is up to you. If you have any questions, please let me know. I've been experimenting with this, playing around with it, and if I can help any of you get started with this, or try it out for yourself, or try out the e-rater, for example, absolutely let me know. Right? Hope you guys have a good day, and thanks for watching.